we object to doing this at this time. We're not prepared for the victim impact statement. Additionally, we would ask that they be narrowly tailored, not to be just personal attacks on Mr. Guy and just the impact of the crime on the victim.
Yes, sir.
Colonel Police, I have admonished all of the family that they're to direct their comments to you, and it is their opportunity to tell you the effect the crime had on them, and it is not an appropriate thing to disparage the defendant. So.
All right. Thank you, Joe. There is no opportunity for direct cross-examination on victim impact, so there's really no response that the defense would have. They'll have an opportunity to reply to that during the sentencing hearing that we'll have at a later date. So I don't think the defendant would be prejudiced by hearing victim impact testimony this time. So I'm going to overrule your objection, but I do direct the family. The purpose of victim impact testimony is to assist the court in sentencing by hearing from the victims on how this has impacted you and your family. So I would ask you to direct your comments toward me in that particular area. All right, John, if you please call your first person. So if you just begin by stating your name, your relationship to the victims, then tell me how this impacted you.
Yes, sir. My name's Alvin Madera, Jr. I'm the oldest brother of Lisa Guy and brother-in-law of Joe Guy. Proceed? It's with heavy heart and tormented spirit that I make the statement to the members of this court. I'm many things. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, and I'm a son. I've been blessed to see many wonderful things on this earth. I watched my stepson grow to become a man. I've been there for my grandchildren. I watched them grow to become little people. Your parents cannot do these things, Joe Michael, because of the crime you've committed. My sister Lisa Guy was truly one of the most loving, caring, and forgiving people on the face of this earth. Her husband, my brother-in-law, Joe Guy Sr., was honestly one of the most down-to-earth, hard-working, and kind people I ever met. They were the type of people who would help anyone out whenever they could. My sister was the type of person who loved deeply. She loved the family, she loved her mother, she loved her father, her sister, and I. Her husband, she loved her children and stepchildren. She loved the grandchildren. Her love was taken. It was taken from this world by murder. My sister and brother-in-law loved family. They enjoyed holidays. Some of my favorite memories I have of her and him were from holidays. We could sit around and tell fun and interesting stories. My brother-in-law was an amazing storyteller, and our family holidays will never be the same without them there. Lisa and Joe were murdered. They were butchered. Their bodies were desecrated. Their spirits were forever harmed. The loss of my family members will forever be eternal. I stand for them in their statement. Days after hearing of Joe and Lisa's murder, my mother was hospitalized. She never exited the hospital. The loss of your child was difficult for her, one that I hope I never have to endure. But to find out your daughter was murdered by your own grandchild was heartbreaking. Literally, she could not even attend the funeral. She was unable to say her final prayers. She was Catholic. She was unable to take communion at her daughter's funeral. Excuse me. The next day after we buried Joel and Lisa, my mother died. They fought to bring her back. She truly died of a broken heart. There are 3 deaths on your hand, on Joe Michael Guy Jr.'s hands. My grandchildren lost their great-grandmother. My stepson lost his grandmother. And I lost my mother. On that day, I lost my family. My mother is gone. My sister is gone. The world has forever changed. The impact of this crime is notorious. My grandchildren's grandchildren will be able to read about this horrible, disgusting crime. We will never, ever be the same. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Robin White?
No, I know your name, but just for the record, if you'd state it again and your relationship to the
Robin
laws.
White, and Joel Sr. was my brother. Lisa was like my sister. And I waited a long time for this, 4 years now. Took away my brother and my sister Lisa, the two precious people he's took from my family and me. It was a heartless and selfish thing. I will never get to see or talk to him or be a part of my brother and my sister's life no more. The night I heard about this, I knew who done it, because in my heart I did. And Mike and Lisa, I called him my brother Mike. I didn't call him Joel. He was so fun, and Lisa, I done a lot with him. We was together a lot, and I missed that. Now that's gone. I'll never get that back. And he was so proud to have his grandchildren, and they miss their papa. He won't get to watch them grow up, him or Lisa, either one now. And their daughters, they won't get to see their father and the woman that they looked up to, a mom, ever again. And I'll never have my brother with me again. But justice has prevailed today, and I am so thankful for that. I had a lot of stuff wrote, but I ain't going to say all of it, so I just want to thank everybody here for what they've done, the job they've done, and you, Your Honor, thank you, and to everybody here. I appreciate it, and I better just shut up now and go home back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. White. I'm sorry for your loss.
Shanda, speak.
If you could just say your name and your relationship to the loss, please.
Chanda Spink. Joel Guy was my dad, and Lisa was my stepmom. They, I don't have a statement ready, so I'm just speaking from the heart. But I want to first of all, just so I don't forget, say thank you to all law enforcement and the lawyers, the court, the jury, everyone that had to see all this. And I'm very sorry that this evil's had to come into their life too. And that I will be praying for all of them as I do for my family as well. Dad and Lisa were wonderful. They were larger than life. They were so happy and such really good people. And they loved him. They loved him so much. They loved all of us. And for anyone to do what he did, I don't understand it. He has taken something from myself, from my children, his dad and Lisa's grandchildren, my husband, everyone in our family. He has taken something from us that we'll never get back. We will. I pray that we can move on from this and that we can put this behind us. I pray that my children are not going to be scarred for life from this. The tears that's come from them, the nightmares. I'm so thankful for today. I'm thankful that this day is done, and I'm so thankful that the jury decided guilty on all counts. And I'm thankful for you giving me the opportunity to speak today. Thanks.
Angela Crane.
And if you begin by stating your name and your relationship.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Angela Crane, and Joel and Lisa Guy were my parents. I wasn't prepared to speak today. It's like for 4 years, I felt like I've pushed it down like it's not actually happening. But it's real, and they're gone. And Dad was my best friend. And I'll never get to hear his laugh again, or his just incredible hugs. I'll never get to sit and banter with him and hear the same stories we've all heard over and over, but they're still just as hilarious because Dad was such a storyteller. I'll never get to go fishing with him, or what he likes to say, have a cocktail. Or it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I was robbed of having my father walk me down the aisle. And Lisa, my last mother on earth, was taken away. She was the most loving and giving person I've ever met. She would give the shirt off her back to anyone, the last dime to anyone. And she was my best friend too. They were both robbed of seeing their grandchildren, their handsome boys, grow up and turn into incredible men. And for them to have to go through this tragedy so young is just, it's heartbreaking. I still have Dad on speed dial. Like, it hurts me every day not to be able to speak to him. The rest of my life is not going to be the same for any of us. And I know there's a void that will not be replaced until that beautiful day when we meet again. Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Ms. Tyler, if you'd begin by stating your name and your relationship, please.
Yes, my name is Michelle Tyler, and my relationship is I am Joel and Lisa's daughter. I'm going to have to put this mask on because that mask smothers me.
That's fine.
That's all right. First, I would like to say that I don't know if you all have a hero, but I have.
Ms. Tyler, I'm going to give you permission to take the screen off. There's nobody within 6 feet.
Thank
facing
you.
I'm just having a hard time hearing you. I think it's appropriate to make an exception in this case. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know if you all have a hero, but I have heroes. And it's such an awful situation to even have to have heroes, but I thank all of you all sitting here and everyone back there that are still here for 5 days and 7 days, and you've been here every time. Every single one of you are my hero. As a little girl, I watched how much Lisa loved Joel Michael. I wanted to be that mom. Joel Michael was Lisa's entire world. Most girls dream of weddings, I think. I don't know. But I dreamed of being Lisa with a picture-perfect family, with the dad coming home at 5 and me having dinner. I wanted to love as strong as Lisa loved. The dinner at Dad's and Lisa's home included meat, which was so different. We would stay there in the summer, but we were at my dad lived like 6 hours or hours away, and so we stayed at my mom's. Included meat, which was so different at my house where we grew up poor, and it was just pasta. So when we went to that house, it was like meat and candy, and they provided a loving and caring home with all the extra stuff. some of this I have to, I can't read that sentence either. My dreams were to spend the next 40 years at Thanksgiving and Christmas laughing with my parents. My dreams were to move Lisa and Dad into my home. I would even banter with them about them moving into my home when they were old, to model for my kids how to take care of your parents in the last days, because I'm moving in with my kids when I get old. But I wanted them to see that, like I got to see my mom take care of her parents. I got to see my mom stand by her parents' bed when they died, and I wanted that. My dream was to hold my mom's, Lisa's hand as she took her last breath. My dream was to hold my dad's hand as he took his last breath. People take moments like that for granted, but I wanted those moments with my whole soul. Not only that, the kid's childhood was taken away. I am angry for my dreams being destroyed, but I'm not the only one that's been affected. This has impacted my kids, and for that I will never be able to forgive. I rest easy knowing that God is okay with my choice not to forgive someone that has murdered my parents. I had to spend the last 4 years saving my kids' soul, their spirits, and their hearts. I have spent the last 4 years cleaning up a mess. No one will ever know what it's like to be a child having to hear that your grandmother's head was cooking in a pot because the person that did it had the perfect childhood. He, especially not a man with that childhood. And on a super selfish note, you'll never know, not meaning you, like meaning what it is like to have to tell your children that their grandparents have been chopped up and put in acid. Can my kids ever trust again? Would I ever really be able to trust again? I was always so proud of Lisa, and I told everyone that she was the best stay-at-home mom. I mourn for my dad, and know I keep talking about Lisa. I mourn terribly for my dad, I do. But I grieve and rage for Lisa. I rage for her from the mother's point of view. I cry for her because I wonder if when she realized the love of her life, the only son she had, the child that she gave her entire life to, was about to murder her. I have to edit that. Stop right there. I wonder if at that moment when her heart was broken, did she even fight? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Anyone else? There'll be an additional time for victim impact statement should anyone choose to make it when we come back for entry of judgment. Does anybody else need to address the court today? All right, thank you, folks. So I do receive the victim impact testimony from the family. As a judge, I'm required to make sentences based upon the law and the evidence in the case. Your emotion is completely understandable, and your pain is completely understandable. As a judge, that cannot have any influence on the decision that I make. But I'm also a human being, so I want you to know that you do have my sympathy. I know this has been very difficult. If I weren't the judge and I were a friend, I would spend a lot of time sitting down and talk to you, but I am the judge, so it would be inappropriate for me to be your counselor. The one thing I will say to the family is several of you have expressed how your faith has played a role in how you're dealing with this. So in your faith tradition, you can read in Romans 5 where Scripture says, where sin did abound, grace did much more abound. And so it's my prayer to you that you will find God's abounding grace to help you get through this. But you do have my sympathy. At this point, though, that sympathy has to end, and I have to make legal determinations. So I hope you understand when I pronounce sentence in this case, it's not a value judgment on the life of Joel and Lisa Guy. It's a judgment based upon the facts of this case in the law. All right. So we do need to set a sentencing date before we enter the sentences on the first-degree murder case. We need to get a pre-sentence investigation report conducted. That takes about 45 days. Today is October 2nd, so that would put us somewhere in the neighborhood of November 13th or the 19th. I guess if the defense will waive the 45 days, I would suggest probably November 19.
19?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that good? General, is that okay for the state?
19th is good, Judge.
All right, so we'll set sentencing date for November 19th. Since we do have verdicts on first-degree murder, the court is required by law to go ahead and enter those sentences, or at least pronounce those sentences. Won't be able to enter judgment because we have to know if there will be consecutive sentences in this case, and we'll also need to pronounce the sentence on the abuse of a corpse on the November 19th day. But at this time, Mr. Guy, I'm going to ask you to please stand. Joel Michael Guy, in docket number 110145, after being tried by a jury of peers, the first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Michael Guy, the court now sentences you to life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 2, after being found guilty by a jury of peers of the first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy, I now enter sentence of life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 3 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy. The court now sentences you to life in prison in that count to merge into count number 2. Count number 4 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Joel Guy Sr. The court sentences you to life in prison in Tennessee Department of Corrections. That will merge into count number 1. Count number 5 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Lisa Guy. The court sentences you to life in prison. That will merge with count number 2. That will be the court sentence. The court stands adjourned.
Your Honor, we talked before about not sending them to DOC right now.
Yeah, he won't go.
Second thing.
He won't go.
Thank you.
Pharmaceutical